The White House is just now saying that the president has just signed a bill that will end the national emergency declared during the COVID pandemic. Remember, that's a state of emergency that had been in place for more than 3 years.
The Event 201 scenario is fictional. Today's scenario is going to simulate meetings of a multi-stakeholder group called the Pandemic Emergency Board.
We're at the start of what's looking like it will be a severe pandemic. And there are problems emerging that can only be solved by global business and governments working together.
There's been some conspiracy theories that are around about the potential that pharmaceutical companies or the UN have released this for their own benefit.
And maybe this is a time for us to showcase some cases where we are able to bring forward some bad actors and leave it before the courts to decide whether they have actually spread some fake news.
A new coronavirus. Infected people got a respiratory illness with symptoms ranging from mild flu-like signs to severe pneumonia.
In related news, a significant demand for personal protective equipment like N95 masks and gloves are on the rise. Patients are overwhelming healthcare facilities. People are avoiding public spaces out of fear of infection and in compliance with public health recommendations. Our U.S. affiliate has just released polling results on public expectations for a vaccine, and 65% of those polled are eager to take the vaccine, even if it's experimental.
I'm not optimistic about having a vaccine in time to be relevant during this pandemic.
With enough money and political will, anything is possible.
Penalties have been put in place for spreading harmful falsehoods, including arrests.
If the solution means controlling and reducing access to information, I think it's the right choice.
What exactly are the risks and benefits of staying home from work? Absolutely, we need to save lives, but we literally cannot afford a heavy-handed response that suffocates our economy.
The world saw large-scale protests and in some places riots. This led to violent crackdowns in some countries and even martial law. The public lost trust in their respective administration. Economists say the economic turmoil caused by such a pandemic will last for years. The societal impacts, the loss of faith in government, the distrust of news, and the breakdown of social cohesion could last even longer. We have to ask, did this need to be so bad?
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here. China has more than 200 confirmed cases of coronavirus, it's called, which produces pneumonia-like symptoms. 3 people have already died from this illness, which has spread to at least 3 other Asian countries. New video sent to CBS News claims to show hospital staff wearing protective gear, and that is protective gear, in Wuhan, China, considered ground zero for the outbreak.
3 airports across the United States. The CDC is on guard. More than 100 officials in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York are screening incoming passengers from Wuhan, China, to detect the deadly coronavirus. Since Friday, the number of known infections across Asia has more than quadrupled, with cases confirmed in China, Thailand, Japan, and now South Korea, which reported its first case this morning. Authorities say most of the cases link back to this now shuttered animal and seafood market in Wuhan.
The first case of China's new and deadly coronavirus has been reported here in the U.S. According to the CDC, the patient is in his 30s and traveled in November to Wuhan, China, the epicenter of the outbreak.
Come to Chinatown. Here we are. That's what we're trying to do today, is to say everything is fine here. Also to say to everyone, you should come to Chinatown. We know that there's a concern about tourism traveling all throughout the world, but we think it's very safe to be in Chinatown.
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. 2 very big words. The action I am taking will open up access to up to $50 billion of very important and a large amount of money for states and territories and localities in our shared fight against this disease. In furtherance of the order, I'm urging every state to set up emergency operation centers effective immediately.
Major cities across the country are looking more like ghost towns. We're so used to seeing LA's famous bumper-to-bumper traffic, but take a look at this LA freeway during rush hour yesterday. virtually empty compared to what it's usually like. In New York's Grand Central Terminal, normally the busy gateway to the city is almost empty during this new era.
Here is what we know right now. The mayor here in New York City is warning that a shelter-in-place order could take hold in the next day or two. Businesses across the country forced to shut their doors, already leading to absolutely stunning increases on unemployment claims. 7 times last week's rate in Ohio. So many came to New Jersey that the system crashed. The White House and Congress are working on a massive stimulus package to address this, likely more than $1 trillion with direct payments to Americans. And the virus now in all 50 states. There are now more than 6,400 cases in the U.S. That number is going to skyrocket as more tests take place. So far, 108 deaths.
Overnight, the mayor of the nation's largest city doubling down, warning New Yorkers of a possible order to shelter in place.
This is moving very fast. We should all be very concerned about how we find a way to slow down the trajectory of this virus. The idea of shelter in place has to be considered now.
Details of what that could mean for the city's nearly 9 million residents still unclear. The San Francisco Bay Area already taking similar drastic steps to slow the pandemic, completing another night under its shelter-in-place order. Shops locked up, normally bustling streets now oddly quiet. Nearly 7 million people told to stay home for at least 3 weeks.
You're sure of it because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. I recommended to the president that we shut the country down.
We're asking that same sense of community to come together and stand up against this virus. And if everybody in America does what we ask for over the next 15 days, we will see a dramatic difference, and we won't have to worry about the ventilators, and we won't have to worry about the ICU beds, because we won't have our elderly and our people at the greatest risk having to be hospitalized.
So again, minimal, at least one mask, likely a double ply type of mask would be good. So one of the ways you could do it, if you would like to, is put a cloth mask over.
Well, let me just state for the record that masks are not theater. Masks are protective.
Across the country, at least 21 million kids now home from school.
Venice Beach Skate Park is closed and now covered in sand after complaints from residents. People living nearby say groups have been gathering at the park without practicing proper social distancing.
The city of Miami Beach is currently under a state of emergency. There's a curfew in effect.
These extraordinary scenes have shocked local officials who say they've been overwhelmed by the number of revelers. There's little sign of social distancing and few people wearing masks. Fights have broken out and businesses have been forced to close down. At one point, the police shot pepper balls into the crowd, urging people to leave after an 8 p.m. curfew came into effect.
A Lodi church now hit with another order to stop their Sunday gatherings. The San Joaquin County Public Health Officer ordering the facility to close.
Also breaking tonight, though, the NBA has suspended its basketball season until further notice after a member of the Utah Jazz tested positive for the coronavirus.
Heightened states of emergency across the nation as a number of coronavirus cases soars above 3,000. Tonight, elected officials taking unprecedented measures to keep people safe. Illinois and Ohio closing all bars and restaurants beginning tonight. California shutting down bars and wineries and asking those 65 and older to self-isolate.
CDC taking additional measures to protect travelers in the U.S. Starting tonight, anyone using public transit will be required to wear a mask. News4JAX reporter Jennifer Reddy joins us live. She's at the Jacksonville Regional Transportation Center. And Jen, this is already a requirement at many local transportation hubs.
Yeah, this would be where we would have all of our paper products, paper towels, and toilet tissue. But as you can see, we've been cleared out.
The general manager of Carnival Grocery shows a long line of shelving stripped bare in his Oak Park store. And in the time of COVID-19, it seems like the new normal.
Italy in lockdown. We've seen closures of schools, churches here in the United States. Why is the CDC using that phrase, social distancing, and does it work?
Well, it's basically figuring out ways to keep us away from each other.
Governor Whitmer is standing by her initial decision not to include landscaping on the list of essential services. But now some local leaders are coming out and saying they won't try to stop businesses that are out mowing lawns.
First, could this be the first arrest made for surfing documented in history? Look at, now he's trying to mow, dude. High-speed pursuit. Uh-oh, he's screwed. Now he's got this guy. This guy's coming in. Let's see the highway pursuit. Oh my God, look at this. He cut him off. Throw the tacks down. Pop the tires. Oh my God. Spray him with a hose. Uh-oh. Sheriff boat.
When everybody goes to a Lowe's or a Menards or a Home Depot, here's what they're going to see. Whole categories of merchandise that are going to be cordoned off and that you will be unable to buy. Things like gardening supplies, paint, carpeting, flooring, and furniture.
Other new restrictions: no going back and forth between property you own in the state or vacation rentals.
Friday afternoon, Governor Charlie Baker ordered all Bay Staters to wear face masks in public when social distancing is not possible. But as it finally feels like spring in Boston, large numbers of people are still heading out without any facial coverings.
So what is non-essential travel? According to the California Department of Public Health, it's travel that is considered tourism or recreational in nature.
And today, Governor Ralph Northam announced that there will be a curfew from midnight to 5 a.m. for most Virginians.
Masks must now be worn outdoors if you can't stay 6 feet apart from others, and public gatherings are reduced from 25 people to 10.
Some churches in Kentucky have adopted for drive-through services, but the mayor says even that isn't considered safe social distancing.
In addition to shutting down beaches and adjacent parking areas, officials have now closed all main access points for pedestrians, including a portion of Highway 101.
This caught on tape shows a dad being taken into custody in front of his wife and 6-year-old daughter. His crime? They were taking a break from quarantine and were tossing a ball around in a park in Brighton, Colorado.
As people return to the boardwalk, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy signs an executive order to require masks outside where social distancing is impossible.
Everett is shutting down basketball courts and playgrounds to try to stop the spread of COVID-19.
Adding Trump-style branding, the administration launched Operation Warp Speed, a multi-billion-dollar research and manufacturing effort to shorten the typical year-plus vaccine development timeline.
Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not vaccinated, even though the vaccine is safe, effective, and free.
And so today, the president announced the most sweeping rules to date. All 9 million federal and contract workers must be vaccinated or face losing their jobs. Private sector companies with over 100 employees must require vaccinations or weekly testing. That accounts for 80 million workers.
The only way we prevent it is to get vaccinated, to wear masks, to do social distancing, washing your hands all the time, and not just to think about, well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom.
The goal, really, and I wish President Biden had done more of this during his speech, I wish that he had gone into all the things that should be done to restrict the activities of the unvaccinated.
And what we really need to do at this point is to make vaccination the easy choice. It needs to be hard for people to remain unvaccinated.
I'll condemn them, I'll shame them, I'll blame them. We can penalize them more. We can say, you're going to pay more on your hospital bill if you weren't vaccinated. You can't get life insurance or disability insurance at affordable rates if you aren't vaccinated. Those companies should not treat us as equals in terms of what the financial burdens are that disease imposes. So I can think of a number of ways in which we should say, here's the stick, get on board.
Don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train besides vaccinated people and put them at risk.
There's no excuse. No excuse for anyone being unvaccinated.
Free fries when you get vaccinated? I want you to look at this and think about, again, some people love hamburgers, some don't. Really want to respect all ways of life. But if this is appealing to you, just think of this when you think of vaccination. Vaccination. I'm getting a very good feeling about vaccination right this moment.
Philadelphia is getting ready to enact a new vaccine requirement for eating inside. The new rule starts in 3 weeks and it applies to more than just restaurants. Sports fans planning to head to the Wells Fargo Center will need to show proof as well.
Joints for Jabs, that's what they're calling it. It's an event in Long Beach where organizers are going to give you a free marijuana joint if you're eligible and get a COVID vaccine.
Also today, the governor says all West Virginians ages 16 to 35 who've already gotten the shots or will get them will also get a $100 savings bond as an incentive. That could cost the state $27 million.
Of course, hunting and fishing is big business. It's a big hobby here in the state, and so officials are taking advantage of that. They're giving away lifetime memberships, lifetime licenses to the fishing and hunting clubs. They're also doing things like giving away a Ford F-150 trucks, as you mentioned, every week for 5 weeks starting at the end of June. And they're also doing something that's a little more controversial. They're giving away 5 shotguns and 5 hunting rifles as well, just for the fully vaccinated or even partially vaccinated.
Today could be your lucky day if you've gotten at least one COVID vaccination shot. California's first vaccine lottery drawing takes place tonight.
Krispy Kreme is offering a free glazed donut if you show them your COVID vaccination card.
Shout out to our favorite MD, Anthony Fauci.
Walking around lawfully unvaccinated? That's psychotic. So it's time to admit that we have to go to war against COVID. Require vaccination universally. Have the military run it. If you don't want to get vaccinated, you better be ready to prove your conscientious objector status in court.
Think about this. In a world of threats and tyrants and terror, you know what our biggest enemy is in America? Our fellow Americans.
Vaccinated person having a heart attack? Yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo? Rest in peace, Wheezy.
If you're willing to walk among us unvaccinated, you are an enemy.
The people who are not getting vaccines, who are believing the lies on the internet instead of science, it's time to start shaming them. What else? Or leave them behind.
You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Yeah.